Hi, hello, I'm Sam Harrison. I read, review and discuss fantasy and science fiction books. Today, I have a review for you of The Silverblood Promise by James Logan. This is a 2024 brand new, when I bought it, not when I'm reviewing it, release in the fantasy genre. It is a first-time novel from James Logan, who is a fairly prolific editor in the fantasy space. So, for example, he has edited for Richard Swan, he's edited for John Gwynne. So both of those authors I absolutely love. I've got a lot of time for their books, and this one I had been highly anticipating, kind of on the back of that. So knowing that, for example, Richard Swan thought a lot of James Logan and trusted him to edit his books, and knowing how much I loved Justice of Kings, I was like, is this book going to be the one? Is it going to be the one for me? And I had very, very high hopes for this book that were not let down. So this is a non-spoiler review, but I will give you the rough pitch for this book. So the main character is Lucan Gardova. He is a dropout of the most prodigious academy in the land, and was he a dropout or was he expelled? It feels kind of like he dropped out before he could be expelled from this most prodigious academy, and he was expelled for dueling, defeating and then killing another student. Now I won't spoil the exact what goes on there, the why, but that's something you kind of learn early on, is that he wins this duel, and then due to events that are out of his control, he is kind of forced to murder his opponent to save his own life. Now, what happens after that duel? He is disowned. His father then has to pay a lot of money in reparations to the family of the child who was murdered. Teenager, man, I guess, I don't know, teenager who was murdered. And Lucan is disowned and basically becomes kind of a nomad, and he uses his skills. So Lucan can talk the talk, he can gamble real well, he's good at cards, and he's also a duelist, as we know, because he won that duel famously. And he kind of uses these trades to ply his way through, back rooms and taverns and gambling dens for several years. And then one night, his father's steward, who is kind of his closest confidant, comes to find Lucan and is like, Lucan, I'm sorry, but your dad's dead, and this is the only clue I have as to who murdered him. And this clue sets Lucan off on the path to a city called Sophrona, which is a trading city on the coast, which is essentially ruled by a set of merchant princes. And he then is kind of set on a collision course with the nastier elements of this society, the higher elements of this society, and multiple merchant princes. He becomes but the book almost kind of becomes a heist or like mystery. And it's kind of combining a load of the tropes that I like so much. So, we have the elaborate heist trope, we have the murder mystery trope, we're trying to find out what happened to Lucan's dad and why he was killed. And we've also got the kind of found family trope with Lucan and a couple of other characters that he bonds with over the book. So, all in all, if you like those things, then I would probably say you can safely go read this book, because it's very well executed, it's very well written. One of the things that I liked the most about it was how fast paced it was. I mean, this looks like a chunky book, right? We're looking at, 600 pages, I think, in this broken binding edition. 500, basically 600, it's like 585 or whatever. In fact, I've pulled it open quite far from the end. Is it over 600? 592, including accomplishments. The text, I will say, is not massively small, so it's not like Wheel of Time size. I would imagine you could fit 4 of these pages on the Wheel of Time page. I've just been reading Wheel of Time, which is why it's kind of on my mind. This is also the Broken Binding edition, which I would highly recommend. Obviously, you're going to be buying this on the secondary market now, so you can't buy this from the Broken Binding anymore. It's sold out fairly quickly within a few days. The thing, I've shown it a few times before on the channel, so I will show it to you very briefly. So it has those sprayed edges that you've probably already seen that continue the cover. It then has multiple scenes from the book depicted. So it has this one as the naked hardback. It has this one, which is probably my favourite, which is the first board cover, whatever they're called, end paper. It's obviously got a lovely little signature from James Logan here, which is pretty cool. It's got a number as well. It's got a ribbon bookmark, which I'm a big fan of, and then finally it has this other pivotal scene depicted here in the other end paper. So yeah, I mean, I've talked a lot about this. I love this edition. This is probably the nicest Broken Binding book I've got, and that's funny, seeing I've got some from the subscription, which you would think would be the best. I also have the Black Tongue duology from Christopher Buehlman, and those have less artwork but have very cool redesigned covers and spines, so big fans of those. But this is probably the nicest, and I would say if you're looking at top to bottom all the features, I think everything is right about this book. So it's got the new artwork, it's got the spine, the sprayed edges that continue the cover, and it's got really high quality paper and a ribbon and all the things that everybody loves. So that's like 2 minutes talking about the physical book that you can't buy anymore. So the story in this book is really good. I really liked the characters. So Lucan is the primary point of view, and you spend most of the book in his head. There are a couple of other chapters from other points of view, which one of my friends pointed out they thought was a little clumsily handled. It didn't really stand out to me in terms of like I didn't expect this. It was more of a, it made me realise when we got to those that we'd only had Lucan's point of view, which I thought was quite a fun way of reading the book. The prose is very strong. It's not lyrical or poetic in the way that you might see something like the First Binding is trying to be. This is more closer to that kind of accessible style of prose, which is my personal favourite. So things like Wheel of Time, Sanderson, Justice Kings, John Gwynne, all of them I feel have very accessible and very emotive, strong descriptive prose. James Logan absolutely fits that bill. He's just as good a quality as most of those writers in terms of prose quality. I like that the name of the book, The Silverblood Promise, is a big pivotal part of the book. It comes very early in the book, and it is very descriptive is the wrong term. The Silverblood Promise really sets off the action of the entire book. There were very, very few scenes where I was like, oh, this is a bit it never dragged. Pacing was always nice and upbeat. There were a couple of surprises towards the end of the book that were really strong, and I like when I have all the same information as the characters and they're surprised and I'm surprised, rather than you often find you're reading a book and it's so obvious it's going to be this, and the characters are like, oh my god, I never expected it to be this. I mean, it was all over the book, especially when you're looking at a first person point of view. Jim Butcher does this very well. This isn't first person, this is third person. Jim Butcher does that very well in Dresden Files, where he will surprise you, but all the clues are there. Something that he's just really, really good at. So yeah, I really enjoyed the story. Overall, I'm really excited to see where this goes. I believe I saw somebody saying this is going to be 4 books, and I've seen the cover for the second book, which is by the same artist by Jeff Brown, who legitimately I think is the best cover artist in the business. Like, if I was writing a book, I would be looking up to see how much Jeff Brown costs, because he is just beyond anything I'm seeing from any other artists. Like, looking at a few other covers recently, I've been like, this is good, but if you're going to do this style, you might as well get Jeff Brown, because he is literally the best. Yeah, I really like the city of Sophrona. I felt that it had a real personality and a real atmosphere to it. I liked a lot of the kind of local flavour of the characters. So you meet a character whose name escapes me, who is a blind beggar with a mystery, which, you know, there's definitely something going on with this character, but you don't learn it for a little while. And then you meet loads of characters from across the spectrum. You know, you meet like crime lords all the way up to these merchant princes, you know, religious leaders, political leaders, and all of them have this kind of touch from Sophrona. So like Sophrona, where a city where basically everything is up for sale for the right price, means that all of the characters have these kind of, even the ones that are like the most like good guy characters, have little shades of grey, which I really appreciated. The characters felt quite real, and even the like cartoon villain bad guys, you know, you could feel their motivations. There was some really interesting world building around the crime lords that are referenced quite a lot in the book, and I liked the way that they were portrayed. And overall, I felt like you get a real sense of place and a real sense of character from the city and the people that live there. In terms of the ending, I found it was very satisfying. I thought a lot of the set pieces were very good across the book. So the, you know, execution set piece near the beginning was really cool, and the way that things were brought back later in the book, that you kind of learn across the book, they eventually kind of come, everything pulls together, and you get to really get some good stuff out of the city and out of the people and the characters. Yeah, it's hard for me to go too deep into this book without spoiling, and it is the first book in this series, so I'm going to try and keep it as spoiler free as physically possible. But I'll tell you right now, this is definitely a book that I recommend. I would imagine it is a fun audiobook read. I think I listened to a sample of the audiobook to check it out, and I did quite enjoy the sound of it. The narrator is very good, and overall it was just a really fun experience. So if you're looking for something to, you know, do something like bust your slump, if you're in a bit of a reading slump, or if you've been reading some slower paced, more, you know, lyrical prose style books, like I think this would have been a great counterpoint to something like the book that I've been reading recently, The First Binding, or to a more dense kind of story, because this is lighter, and this lighter not in a pejorative. I'm not saying that it's too light or that it's doesn't have much depth, because it does have a lot of depth, but I think that the story is familiar in a positive way. You know, you've got this cool, you know, this cool setting, you've got this heist, you've got this mystery behind all of it, and all in all, I just really enjoyed it, and I thought it was really well put together. So let me know what you think. If you have read The Silverblood Promise, don't know why I kind of forgot the name of the book there. If you read The Silverblood Promise, let me know what you thought. Tell me who your favourite characters are. If you're thinking about reading The Silverblood Promise, please do so down below. So let me know whether you're thinking of reading it and whether I've convinced you. And of course, please, while you're on your way down to the comment, drop a like on the video and a subscribe on the channel if you haven't. Every little subscription helps. We are so close to not being that close to 1,000, but we're much closer than we were last week. And that first 1,000 is my big goal for the channel, and I would love to hit it, you know, soon, I guess. Thanks so much for watching. I'll speak to you tomorrow.